Today, we're going to talk about what's new in our Vault utilities, whether it's the client side or the server side. So today, we're going to start with the client side. And as you can see there, and what's new is 2022.1. That was the release that has our new features in. So, as Ashley said, my name is Anthony Dahl. I'm a solutions consultant here at IMAGINiT. I've been here, I don't know, for over 14 years. Whether it's training, consulting, implementations, pretty much done it. If you have any questions after this, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll try to help you out as much as I can. So, instead of just showing the what's new for the clients 2022, I just wanted to post up here some of the what's new from some of our previous versions. I know a lot of our customers might skip over a release. They'll go from 2020 to 2022 or something like that. So I just wanted to list this stuff up here just so you have you kind of read it, see it, in case you missed one of the webcasts we've done previously outlining the what's new functionality. So we'll hit on maybe some of them, just kind of talk through them quickly, but we're really going to focus on the client 2022 new features and the enhancements that we've added. Working our way through. Just real quick, I'm just going to blow through some of the older what's new stuff, just so if you missed it, just so you know it's there. The first one would be to copy or open URLs quickly through our thin clients, creating local folders from Vault down to your local machine, which is very important. That way we're making sure the folders have the same structure, they're named the same thing, when we're saving files locally. For example, we don't have somebody, creating a folder locally called projects, but in Vault it's project singular, and now we're checking in a brand new folder structure. So this is a great enhancement that we did a while back to help eliminate issues like that. Some other stuff for 2019 quickly, the ability of syncing folder properties to files. So if we have properties on folders within Vault, we can push those properties down to the file inside of those folders. Very helpful. Inside of Vault, you'll see when I switch over, we have the visual lifecycle tab. Within Vault, you have a new tab down at the bottom. So if you're ever wondering, okay, my file's in a WIP state, where can I transition this file to? Is it just review, or is it a WIP review? Where can I take this file? What is the next state I can go to, or where can I go back from? This is going to help you kind of resolve that. 2020 added some the abilities of doing some step file creation. A lot of customers want to step out and send it to a machine, CNC, or submit to a customer. We can do that through our utilities. We can hide utilities. So if you're not utilizing all of the options you get with our client utilities, as an admin, we can go in and hide some of those from our users. Kind of simplify it a little bit. Update folders from templates. So in this one here, we can say we have a template folder, and if that template folder changes, this would give us the ability to push those changes down to our folder structure. Very handy there. So as things change, we can roll with those punches. 21, folder to file property sync. So this is good. So if you need to control the properties at the, like it says here, at the file and folder level, this provides the mechanism to update the folder-based properties onto files within that folder. So again, we're taking what's on the folder and syncing those properties down to the file. Again, kind of the close to the same thing here, syncing the folder stuff down to the files. Reserving numbers. So in 21, that was something we added where if you have numbering schemes and maybe I want to reserve, the next 20 numbers. So as I, design my project, I have that list of numbers so I can keep them maybe all in order. So if you want to keep all of your part numbers in order for your job that you're working on, you could go up and reserve a chunk of numbers based off of the numbering scheme that you're using, so nobody else uses them. The ability of creating flat pattern based off the DXF job. So as long as your IPT, your sheet metal IPT, has a flat pattern built into it, right from Vault, let's say you have somebody in the shop who wants the flat pattern to throw into the machine. So they can log into Vault, find the file when they're ready for it, and right click and say, hey, let's go ahead and let's create that DXF for that model. So they can do it themselves on the fly when it's convenient for them. All right, so blew through some of that. Now we're over to the 2022 client updates, okay? So the first one, again, I'll go switch over to Vault once I get through these, and I'm just gonna highlight and show a handful of them. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but I'll show some of them. So the first one we wanna look at is the local copy cleanup. So what is this going to do? This is great. I don't know how many times, let's say I have a drawing of a big assembly and I want to check it in the Vault, and lo and behold, I also have a part file from that design open. So when I go to check in the drawing and I say, hey, close and delete my local copies, it says, hey, we can't do that, right? Because we have a file already open. So now it checks it in, but I'm stuck with all these files just sitting on my hard drive, and I don't want them there. So I could go and manually delete, clean them up, which is what most people should be doing to honor and clean up that workspace. But what our utility is going to do, it's going to allow us to select a folder in Vault and say, hey, let's clean up my local copies. So what it will do, it'll see what's in Vault, what's on your local, and then if it's already safely, keyword, if it's safely in Vault, it will remove them from your local hard drive. So I have customers all the time who, with solid state hard drives, maybe it's a small solid state hard drive, and they're constantly fighting space issues. So this is a great one to help us, help everybody keep our workspace clean and get rid of the stuff that we don't need to store on our local drive. So we'll show that one. The next one is copy folder permissions. So this is I love this one because this one, if you're using our folder templates, so if you're saying hey, I have a set of folders that every job we do, I want to kick off that new job and have all my folders created so they're named very explicitly every single time. It's consistent, and everybody's doing it the same, which is very important. So that's great moving forward for new stuff. So I've used this where I have historical projects where I have like a project folder where I have permissions set, what groups or what users can see this folder, who can modify it, who can delete, who can download information within this folder. Well, I have it all set up for my new stuff, but maybe I want to take those permissions and I want to basically copy them and then apply them to a target folder. So I don't have to manually go in every time and find all of my old historical folders and go through and change the permissions on them. So it's a very powerful little command that we can basically copy and paste permissions from one folder to the next. So we'll look at that one. Enhanced features, right? So this is going to start blending into some of those things where the features aren't new, but we've enhanced them with some more functionality based off of some of the feedback we receive from our clients. So the first one is lifecycle notifications. So if you're using our utility to say, when I take a file or files and I transition them in Vault from, let's say, a work in process to a review state. And when I do that, that needs to trigger, maybe Matt to start looking at the design when it's in the review state. So what this will do, we can already send those notifications, right? So we can already send notifications to Matt saying, hey, files were transitioned from WIP to review. But what this is going to allow me to do is, okay, well, I know Matt's on vacation. So now I don't want to send them to Matt. I want to send them to Ashley. So on the fly, I can change the email of who I want to send these to. So again, allows us to have a little bit more power in who we send these files or the notifications to when a design is ready to be looked at. So that was one thing we updated. Excuse me. The next one we want to look at here is within our standards folders. And if you're not familiar what our standard folder tool is, it's the ability of saying, okay, well, I have all of my inventor templates, design data, I have all my AutoCAD templates, my AutoCAD electrical, I have all of this stuff in Vault, right? That's where we can control them with permissions. If you wanted to, we could control them with categories and life cycles and lock them down and have a history of when and who modified them. So what this is going to allow us to do is to say, hey, Matt's on the inventor team. So whenever Matt logs in, I want to take our inventor templates, I want to take our inventor design data, all of that information that Matt needs, and I want to take it and put it on his local C drive, his workspace. So whenever he opens up Inventor, he is always using the latest and greatest. Or for the AutoCAD or AutoCAD electrical users, we're just taking what's in Vault and a specific folder and pushing it down to the local user's machine. So that's what the standard folder tool does. So some of the things we've enhanced on it is the ability of creating empty folders. So if the folder that, or a set of folders that I want to push down to Matt's local workspace, and let's say in Vault, one of those folders is empty. So now we have the ability of saying, if it's an empty folder, also take it from Vault and copy it down to Matt's machine, whether there's something in that folder or not. Maybe we want to push it down just so it's a placeholder for Matt to do his job, and he has that folder structure already set locally. Excuse me. The next one is force the overwrite. So this is the one. This is one I'll show after I get through the next one or two slides here, where another thing I run into all the time is where let's say we did push these files down to Matt, and he's using the latest and greatest templates and design data or AutoCAD electrical files, but then he gets wise and he might go in and let's say override or modify one of those local files. So maybe he wants to go in and predefine some settings or change some things because maybe he doesn't like or want to use what the company standard is. So now what we can do is say, okay, well, if Matt overrode the company's template locally, we can still take and force down and override what he did locally. So we can still take what's in Vault, the official company template, and push it down to his machine. So that's an option that we've added. We've also added remove any local files that are not present in Vault. Now we'll talk a little bit about these in a minute, but some of these we want to be careful as we use them, right? So I'm not going to set these options for every folder that I'm using for standard folders, but for something like templates, I just ran into one instance where we were writing some iLogic code. So the iLogic code was in the design data folder, but some of the old rules we had got changed. So there's new rules. So the old rules don't need to be there anymore. Or what happens if Matt takes his the company template, copies and pastes it, and makes his own template off of it, right? So what remove any local files option will do is say, okay, well that file doesn't exist in Vault, so we're going to delete it from your local C drive. So whether it's a user who is making their own templates and not using the company ones, or it's something where the iLogic rules have changed, right? So this rule is no longer needed. It was superseded by this other rule. So I don't want to keep those old files on my user's local machine. I want to get rid of them. And that's exactly what this does. It'll kind of clean up any files that aren't quote unquote, I guess, official by the company. And we have also added the ability of seeing the progress user interface, the progress UI. So when we first log into Vault, we'll see a little box that's floating that lets us know that the client utilities are running and checking all the rules that we have set up. Before that, we didn't know whether did it run, was it finished running. Now we have that something visual. We can see that it is currently working. Another thing we've added is where we have the ability of changing the character between the if we're creating, let's say, PDFs for drawings, we have the ability of changing what the character is between the file name and rev if we're adding the rev to the PDF. So if my file name was 123, now I could say I want it to be 123 space dash space rev A, right? So I can change what that separator is between the file name and rev if I'm adding the revision to the file name of the said PDF. Okay. All right. So now what I would like to do, as I went through some of these 2022 client updates, I just want to actually show a few of those here that I spoke about. So the first one I'd like to expose here is the local copy cleanup. So let's say I'll just grab a folder here. Here's a gearbox folder, and if I get, right, I'm just going to get a copy. I'm not checking them out. I'm just getting a copy, right? So I have these files local now. So if I say go to my local working folder, right, I can see inside of here, I have a bunch of those files, right? I don't have them checked out. Maybe I was just using them for a while, but now I don't want them on my local C anymore. So what our utility allows us to do is I can come over, grab a folder, go to our IMAGINiT utility and say local copy cleanup. And when I click on that, do you want to include the subfolders? In my case, I do, so I'm going to say yes. Now it's going to come up and give me a summary here. It's saying, hey, all of these files that we found on your local workspace, we are now going to remove them. So I'm going to say delete the files. Again, these are safely in Vault, right? We're not getting rid of stuff that's not in Vault. All these files are currently in Vault. So I want to say delete the files. And we have 9 of 9 deleted. So now if I look back over here, all of the files are now gone. Again, freeing up the space on my local C drive. The next one we'll take a look at here was the one copying folder permissions. So if I look at my project folder A, and I go into my security, you can see where I set up folder level security. You know, what users or groups can read, modify, delete, and download, okay? So now, let's say I have this other project, project C, maybe this was a historical project, right? And it doesn't have the permissions, but I want it to have the same permissions. So now what we can do is if I go to the folder that I want to add the permissions to, go to our utility, and I could say inside of here, where's that? Copy folder permissions to this folder, all right? Copy folder permissions to this folder. So now if we come up, I'm going to include the subfolders or do not include them. The choice is yours. Whether there's a bunch of subfolders underneath, we can cascade it. But I'm just going to simply say, let's copy the permissions from project A. That's the folder that has the permissions that I like. So I'm going to hit OK and then say copy. Copied, finish copying properties. I get the alert. Now, if I go back and check on project C, we should now have all of the properties copied to it. So again, a great way to, you know, when things change and you need to change permissions, but the folders already exist, right? This is a great way to go and try to do some housekeeping and clean up to make sure all the folders have the same permissions. Okay. Another thing that I'll show here is the ability of, let's say I want to transition this file from a WIP or work in progress to a review state. And maybe I know that, you know, Matt usually gets that email when I transition it to the full review, but maybe he's out of the office. He's on vacation. Somebody approved it for him. I don't know who, but now I need to send the notification to maybe Ashley because she is taking over his responsibilities while he's gone. So if I come up and I say I'm going to change the state of this file from a work in progress to a review state, it's going to give me a notification here to say, hey, this is these are the users that I typically would send it to. Now those two guys are out for the day, or Matt's out for the day. So now I can come in and type in the emails to the people that I want to get notified that this is now in a review state. So we have the ability of doing this on the fly now as we go. And then I would say send, and then I get an email, so I have it going to me. I would get an email saying this file was transitioned from a WIP state to a review state. Pretty simple, but very useful, especially when we have people in and out of the office. Okay. So the next one we want to look at here would be if I go to my CAD standards folder, right? This is where I have my inventor, and I don't have anything for Article Electrical, but yeah, my placeholder here where I'll have my design data files, I have my templates, I have all this stuff in here. Now, let's say, again, I'm going to close this out so I can open it back up and it'll run the rule. But if I close that out and I look at my templates here, okay? So this is my template folder where my, from Vault, it's pushing down to this location. So let's say that, for example, I want to come in here, grab this IDW file, okay? I'm going to grab this IDW file, and I want to go into the properties of this. I'm going to be a little sneaky. I want to take off that read only, and now I want to go in because I want to change this file. I can open it up, edit it, add whatever I want to add to it, save it, or, you know, just to make a change, I'll go into the iProperties right from here and say the title is, you know, my title, and the author is, you know, whoops, that finger to keyboard, iProperties, summary. The author is me, right? So I want to go through and fill these out ahead of time, right? So I don't want to fill these out every time. That's why I'm doing this. So if I hit apply, right, and hit close, so you can see the time and date stamp here. I just overrode my local quote unquote official company template. So I'm going rogue a little bit here. Okay. But now if I come and I say, I want to go ahead and log in. So if I open up Vault and log in, so we should see down at the bottom right, I don't know if you can see that, where it's the processing folder. So that's telling me that it's doing something. And I can also see here in my templates folder, you see where it says standard IDW, where it's has the little green file notification here, and it has that little plus sign. That's should be alarms going off saying, hey, that local file that you have is now out of sync, or it was modified locally from what's in Vault. So once our utility runs, we get the little warning or little dialogue here that says, hey, we retrieved one updated file. So if I show the details, it just updated the standard IDW. So that's saying, hey, what was in Vault did not match what was on your local. So we replaced what was on your local with the official one. So hit OK and OK on that. Now, if I come back over here and refresh Vault, right, because Vault's not live, I got to refresh it, I can now see that I now have the exact copy of that IDW from Vault. And if I go back to my templates, we can see here that it does not have the new date of today. It went back to what was last checked in the Vault. Okay, so that was the ability of going in through our utility here for the standard folder and saying, you know, hey, I want to force the override. It's this option right here inside of here. I want to force the override. So push it from Vault down to my local. Now, the next one we'll look at here is remove any local files that are not in Vault. Okay, so right now I'm taking my CAD standards folder and pushing it down locally. So if I close it out and I go back to my template folder, and let's say in this case, again, I'm going to go rogue here a little bit. I want to copy my IDW, paste it, and maybe I want to call this is Anthony's IDW, right? Then I want to grab an IAM file and we'll copy and paste him in, and I'll make this my new template, right? So fine, you can keep your company templates. I'm just going to make my own and keep them in that same directory. So now what should happen when I log back into Vault is it's going to run and look and say, hey, wait a minute. In our template folder in Vault, we don't have those files. So we're going to go down to your local C drive and remove them from your local drive. So you have to use the company standard. And I mean, that's just one way of using that tool. Like I said, the other one would be to, if I go back over here, they're now gone from my local, it got rid of them. So the other way of using it, like I said, a lot of times we would have in design data, we would have like a folder here for iLogic rules and forms and things like that. And sometimes you might have rule ABC, and then all of a sudden that got superseded by rule 1, 2, 3, but ABC is already on everybody's local. So how do we clean that up, right? And in this utility here, we'll go out there and do that. So if it's not what's officially in Vault, it will remove it from the local. Again, that's functionality is amazing, awesome for this like CAD standards templates control. Okay. All right. So those were trying to keep an eye on time here. So those were a couple things I just wanted to point out for the client side. So if I flip back to the client presentation here, so we did that. So the one of the last slides here for this, I just want to point out, people always ask, how much is it? Where can I get it? Well, guess what? If you have your subscription with us, IMAGINiT, you get all of those utilities. And again, I just skimmed on some of the new stuff. There's a lot of other stuff built in. You get them for free. Pretty awesome. If you don't have your subscription with us, and you want to, you can always talk to us. Or B, you can look down here at the bottom where you can see our standalone and network pricing. So any questions about that stuff, leave a note and we'll have somebody get in contact with you. I know Matt's manning the Q&A, so if you have any questions about pricing or how to get it, just let us know. But again, if you are a subscription customer with us, through us, you get all those client utilities for free. So, so that was the client side of things. I don't know, I got it, okay. Now, over to the server side of things. Okay. So what's new in Vault for the server utilities 2022.1, okay? And again, kind of like what I did with the client side, I'm just going to hit on some other topics in here just in case you didn't know about them. So our server utilities, here's a list of the utilities that you get with our Vault server utilities. Two that are new. One is the network licensing for our server utilities. That is new, so now we can have, you can purchase a network license for them, and that is beneficial. So if we have this installed on our server, right, because that's what's going to be, we'll talk about in a minute, manning our backups, but maybe your Vault administrator wants to also have it installed so they can run the Vault metadata from their local machine. So now you would need 2 licenses, or we could have a network license where we could pull from the same license pool. So that's our network licensing for server utilities 2022. That's brand new. One of the most popular ones with our utilities, it's always been the most popular one, is our Vault backup. And we have some enhancements we'll see here in a minute for that. Our Vault metadata update, again, we'll kind of go through these in a minute here. But as I get down to the bottom, the new functionality we've added is pretty awesome. It's called the related file checker. That's gonna, I think, help a lot of people out, making sure we have, all of our DWIF files created, our visualization files, maybe PDFs or what have you. So we'll take a look at that one. So our backup, we'll start with that one first. So our backup, if you don't know, right, that's our utility where we say, hey, I want to back up our Vault, and not only does it back it up on a schedule, but it will also send IT, the Vault admin, whoever, somebody in engineering, an email letting you know that, hey, the backup was successful. And then that's crucial, right? Because if all goes south, that's what we need to get engineering back up and running. So it's very, very important. And now, you can get an email notifying you that everything is good. So a couple of things that we've enhanced or added for our backup utility is the ability of configuring or setting up the SQL Express maintenance. So I'll flip over and show you where that's at. But now if you're not using full SQL, if you're using SQL Express, we can set up a maintenance job through our utility instead of having to do it manually. Pre-cleanup backups prior to running. So it seems like as I talk to people, customers, clients, everybody's always fighting space issues. So what this would do, again, you got to use it, cautiously, but what this will do, before I run that backup, maybe I want to have it delete my previous backups. So delete my previous backups, then run my backup. So I'm not running out of space on my server. So if you're fighting space issues, this can really help you out. But of course, hopefully you have a backup of the backup, because if it deletes the backup, then something crashes and fails, well, now you might be left without a backup. So you got to use it with caution, but yeah, I think it's going to help a lot of our customers out who are fighting space issues. Another option we've added is the ability to robocopy. So a lot of our customers will, again, make sense to back up locally, right? That's where we get speed, and we can back up to our local servers, C drive, D drive, whatever we have. But then a lot of times we are robocopying that backup across the network to some other location. So now we have that option to, after the backup is successful, we could tell it to, hey, we backed up to our C drive on our server. Now let's take it and copy it across the network to another server that gets backed up. So now we'll have it in 2 locations. A lot of times we were writing that manually and creating a scheduled task to do that. But here it's just, one more thing to help out. It's just built into our tool at this point. The next one down, pre-specify a list of vaults to eliminate calls to the client API. So when we're doing certain tasks on the server, like SQL defrags, we would have to use a license of the vault client to get what vaults are existing. So now if we go in and we pre-specify the vaults that we are going to run the job on, we don't need to use or tie up a license of the vault client. So some customers may not want to put the vault client onto the server, and this would help in that regard, where we manually go in and type in the vaults that we have instead of having it use the vault client license. The vault meta update. Now, this isn't new, but again, I think it's worth just educating and letting people know what it is. So this is the ability of saying, hey, maybe my properties, my metadata within Vault needs to be massaged, needs to be shown a little love. Maybe things got out of hand. So what this is going to allow us to do is to export out like a list of our files and all the properties that we want to manipulate, and whether we're getting the new part numbers from some other type of system where we're marrying the 2 Excel spreadsheets together. Then after we marry them together into one Excel, we're going to take that Excel file and push it back into Vault and have it update all of the files. Very, very powerful, utility here. And what's new in that utility is the ability of saying, hey, if I'm adding maybe a vendor name, and I'm putting in for the vendor name, IMAGINiT, and I just in Excel kind of like throw IMAGINiT in every cell all the way down my list of files, and I push that back into Vault. What this option will allow me to do is to do that, but if that file has a vendor already populated in there, maybe the vendor already says Autodesk, well, with this option, it's not going to override the existing value with what I put in that Excel spreadsheet. So it's just another option of control there. Another utility is the Vault Publisher. So this is, basically publishing files from Vault outside of Vault to a location, whether it's WIF files or PDFs, right? We can, publish the PDFs to a, some other location where users outside of Vault can access. The Vault security tool, this is one that, everybody should be keeping an eye on, especially, again, with turnover, where, the Vault admin left, and now, somebody was, hey, it's my job now to manage this. So first thing I would want to do is this, what is the current lay of the land? So if I run our utility, the security tool, it'll give me a really nice report on what, who all has administrator privileges within the Vault. That'd be the first thing I'd want to know. So it gives me, now I'll show you one that I ran on my little simple Vault here. It gives me a nice Excel file of all kinds of information I can kind of thumb through and see what is the current lay of the land, and nothing else, maybe use that to help document the vault as well. We also have a utility to be able to run vault commands via the command line. So if you rather do some automating where you open up the command prompt and you want to go in and create folders in vault, set revisions, life cycles for files, that can be done through the command line, through using our command line tool. The job manager. So the job processor is one of those things that we have to have, right? The job processor is creating, it's syncing properties to the files, it's making DWIFs, it's creating PDFs, it's doing a lot of stuff. And when that goes down, everybody's affected, right? So the PDF didn't get created when something was released. There's no DWIF file there for somebody to review a job. So what our job manager utility will do is keep an eye on all that. So if something starts going south with the job processor or job processors, this will go out and start sending emails and say, hey Matt, something's going on here. The job proc is down. So it's just a good monitoring system to make sure that everything is running as smoothly as it can. The vault change summary. So again, this is going to be set up through the Windows scheduled task. And so what this is going to do, this is great. So imagine if you have a group of people that you're contracting in, you let them have access into your vault through your network by whatever means. But they're checking and adding in files. So what this, we could use it for would be to say, hey, you know what, send me an email, maybe, I don't know, weekly on all the files that were checked into this location, right? So that's important. So I can say, okay, well, I contracted Matt to do some work, and I need to go in there and look to see what he's done. So this is a great way to kind of keep tabs on, contractors or again, the sky's the limit, use your imagination, but it's a really powerful tool to keep track of what's going on, whether you're a project manager or engineering manager, design manager, whoever. It's a great way to keep tabs on what's been created or checked in. The Vault Configure export utility. So again, this is just going to export out some reports that show how Vault is configured. So, and again, I think I might have one of these already ran and up to show you guys, but again, it's a great tool to run because sometimes it's easier to look at a report to see how something is configured than to go through all the dialog boxes, picks and clicks. So again, just another tool in your arsenal or your toolkit to help make sure that everything is configured and running as it should. The related file checker, right? So this is brand new for 2022. So this is going to allow us to do some really cool things here. I know a lot of people want to make sure that they have a DWIF file for every inventor model, right? Because that's how other people look at the stuff. They look at the DWIF file within Vault. And if that DWIF file doesn't exist, well, now I need to go and open it up in Inventor and look at it. So, having that DWIF file there for review or checking purposes is critical. Same thing with PDFs. If you're supposed to have a PDF file when something goes to a review state, because maybe the person reviewing the file, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at the PDF of the drawing. They're not opening up AutoCAD. They're not opening up Inventor. They're looking at the PDF. That's great, but what if that PDF doesn't exist? So what our utility does, it's going to keep tabs, and we can say, hey, you know what? If there's an inventor drawing that's in a review state or a release state, and it has to have a PDF file. So this will go out and run and keep an eye out for any Inventor file, AutoCAD file that doesn't have a visualization or maybe doesn't have a PDF file. So this is going to run again in that Windows task scheduler, and it will send out an email, which I'll show you what that looks like, saying, hey, this ran and it is good. So maybe I want to run this to have it update the viz files maybe every Saturday morning when nobody's in the office. Or maybe I want to run the PDF job every Sunday morning when nobody's in the office. So, we can set up and configure it to run off hours so we're not bogging down the job processors during work hours. Okay. Just so real quick here, I know we're getting short on time. I'm trying to get through as much as I can. So just showing you with the Vault backup, a couple of new things here. So in our backup utility, if I say I want to keep the last maybe, I don't know, 2 backups or the last backup, I just want to keep one of them, and then I can say, well, delete the old ones before you run. So if I say clean out and it says, hey, are you sure? Because everything goes south, you might be left without a backup. So acknowledge that, say yes. So now what that'll do, that'll delete the backup, then run this, and that way I'm not, kind of running out of space maybe. But then after you run, you can also now say, okay, hey, let's go down here and let's go ahead and robocopy my backup after it runs. Let's robocopy this over to this other network where we have plenty of space. So I can go out and map to that network location and start pushing this backup over there. Now, of course, you're gonna have to keep an eye on that other location, the destination location, make sure you're not filling it up. But this is what this command will do. In our scheduled task, this is where we would go in and say, we always had the Vault backup task, the Vault defrag task, but now we have the SQL Express maintenance task that we could set up where it'll create that maintenance plan for SQL Express, not just full SQL. And again, these are all created as Windows task schedule. The other thing, so in here, this is our new related file checker. Okay, this is our new related file checker. So if I come in here and look, now this is one that I set up right before our call, where I said, hey, you know what? Let me go up here and edit this. I want to look for DWIFs, and I named it, DWIF check. And again, it's for IPTs. Again, we could put in other extensions in there if we want. But I'm saying, hey, if it's in my lifecycle flexible release and it's in a working state, I need a DWIF file. So I'm telling it to come down here and must have an up-to-date visualization file. And if it doesn't, what am I going to do? Well, down here is where we have the options. I can say, hey, I want to go ahead and sync the properties because that's important. Especially if you transition something to like a release state, but that needs to have the properties synced, but it failed. So we can make sure that everything that's released has its properties synced if something failed earlier on. We have all kinds of different options in here to, DWG creator, step, PDF, DXF, WIF, PDF, sync the properties. So if this doesn't hold true, what do we want to do about it? So this is what I set up right before our call today. And what it gives me is something that looks like this. So I ran it right before our call, ran it today, and it went through and it found 38 files, IPTs, in my Vault that did not have a visualization file. So what it did was it ran through and it created that WIF file for all of these for me. Okay, so that's the kind of report we can have set up where, hey, I created all these PDFs, I created these WIFs. Then there's the other one I wanted to show you. I mentioned earlier about the exporting your configurations out to Excel for the server utilities. This is kind of what you, again, this is just out of the box Vault, nothing configured in it. But you can go through, you can see what other groups, all the different roles that we currently have in this vault, what permissions do they have? It gives me a nice report. What folder categories, if any, file categories, what are their life cycles, the revisions, the properties. A lot of good information inside of here, again, that we can keep an eye on, especially if you're taking over a vault admin position from somebody. You know, you want to get a lay of the land. This is a brilliant tool to use. All right. I try to get as much as I could in the amount of time we had. The last one, the last slide here is the IMAGINiT Vault Server Utilities pricing that Matt put together for me, so you can kind of review that and see what that is. And again, please reach out to if you don't know your sales exec, reach out to somebody on this call here, and we can keep you hooked up there and help you implement and get all this stuff set up and configured. So